Hello everyone, and thank you so much for all your questions, and thank you most of all for helping me to get over 600 subscribers. Now, I have had previous milestones and I haven't taken the time to truly celebrate them, and I'm sorry about that. I really am. I did say thanks in a few videos, but that isn't quite the same as doing something like a Q&A. Now, I don't usually get into any kind of private details on my channel. I usually keep it quite, should we say, professional, and I talk just about Sims stuff, and you might have met my cat once or twice. But other than that, I don't really talk about myself. So a Q&A is a great opportunity to find a little bit more about me, if you've been at all curious, and apparently a few of you were. So we have a lot of questions to get through. I counted at least 100, and some of the questions were actually repeats. I'm going to answer them pretty much live. Like normal, I am going to edit the video. I will try not to be glib, which means I will not do a quick response just to get through the question. I'll try and give a good response to each question, but I will try and keep moving as well through the questions. Okay, so the first question is from Cinnamon Sims, otherwise known as Diana. What do you like the most about The Sims 4? Okay, so The Sims 4 taps into a type of game that I have liked for many years, well before the Sims franchise actually came along. And yeah, I'm not a spring chicken. I am a little bit older than the average Simmer. So there was, back in I think the 90s, early 90s, there was a game called Little Computer People, which started kind of breaking into this kind of territory. But I remember I was so much more impressed by what I'd heard about the game and what I'd read in magazines. When I actually got playing it, I was a bit disappointed with it. It wasn't until a game series called Creatures, which some of you may know, came out in the mid-90s, and that was more of an artificial life type game. It is Sims-like in a way. You're controlling various different creatures instead of Sims. You know, they were kind of fluffy, furry, cute creatures instead of human creatures, as it were. They had a very complex like biochemistry simulated as well, and actual learning systems, so they would form memories like we do from interacting with their environment. They were 1,000 times more detailed than Sims are even to this day. But so whoa, I've really got off track here. So what do I like most about The Sims 4? It gives me a little bit of the Creatures experience. Sims didn't come out till a few years after Creatures. There was actually talk between the Creatures studio, which I worked for eventually. That's how I got into the games industry, but we'll get to that. There was some talk between the Creatures team and Maxis about working together, but it never came about. So yeah, little known fact, yeah, I could have worked on the Sims franchise very, very early on. So what do I like most about The Sims? It gives me a little bit of what Creatures gave me, but it also seriously relaxes me. I find it it reduces my stress a lot, and I don't know, I play lots of other games, just so you know, but Sims is special in that it allows me to be creative, which is, you know, it's how I got into the games industry, and yet it also really relaxes me and reduces stress. So, whoa, I can't give a long answer like this to all the questions. Let me move along. How long have you been playing the game? Well, okay, I've kind of already answered that. I've been playing since the start. I've been playing since Sims came out, although I've got to admit, I didn't like the first versions of Sims as much, especially when Sims first came out. The detail of the Sims wasn't as good even as the detail of Creatures. They were, that was my feeling at the time anyway. It may be wrong if you look back at it now, but I remember feeling that their facial details were less detailed than Creatures' faces, which it really upset me. And I don't know, I just didn't play it, but also I was working in the games industry at that stage, and I just didn't have as much time to play as many games, so I didn't get into the first couple of Sims games as much, but Sims 3 I got really into it. Whoa, this is going to take ages. If you could build your dream house and have it magically appear for you to live in, what kind of house would you build? Okay, so if you've been following my channel for a while, I would challenge you to tell me what my type of house is. I mean, yeah, I like doing restricted pack builds, but the style of house, okay, what I really like is trying different styles, basically. So what would I like to live in real life? I don't know. I mean, I like the idea of a good solid house that's attractive and comfortable. It doesn't have to be modern. It doesn't have to be historical or traditional, you know, in style. I would just like a nice solid house. I would love a garden because I love gardening. Another thing that is very relaxing. And I'd like it to be, you know, of a reasonable size so that I could feel, I don't know, I suppose, financially secure in it. And yeah, I mean, wouldn't that be great if you could just have whatever type of house you wanted? I would love that. Or would you want to live in one of the houses you've already built? No, I don't really want to live in any of my houses. I mean, the thing about building, at least for me, is that I build it and I like it, but even when I have finished it, I find I have issues with it. Like, I would like to do more with it, but I have to keep moving on, you know? You have to keep, you can't keep playing with a house. Well, I don't want to keep fiddling around with the house, so I'm never really happy with any of my houses, basically is what I'm trying to say. So I don't really want to live in any of them. Now, I can't think of one in particular. Anyway, thank you so much for your questions, Diana. So, Scott Sims asks, what is your favourite Sims 4 pack? So that's not, you're not being specific about what type of pack, which is very difficult because I have to choose between stuff packs and expansions. Oh gosh, I can't answer that. I don't know. Whoa. I like the base game very much. I was actually really impressed by the base game and the range of different types of objects that it has in it. And so as someone who is building with just one or two stuff packs or one or two packs, having such a range of different objects in the base game is really helpful. Be decisive, Frimlin. I really like cats and dogs because I'm a cat lover. Yeah, cats and dogs I'd have to say now, but I mean, the thing is it's got a newness feeling to it, and I don't think that's always taken into account when you look at polls, for example, because it tends to be that the newer packs of each type are more liked than the older packs. I think you just over time start taking a pack for granted. But yeah, I really liked Cats and Dogs. It had a range of great items, and it also brought cats and dogs and a new world. New worlds are great. So who are your favourite YouTubers and streamers? So I first got into watching YouTube, I think it was only with Deligracy. I think I've said this before, but I used to only watch Deligracy, and then I kind of branched out a bit. But now that I have my own channel, and I also try and support lots of other smaller YouTubers, so I actually started answering with some of the smaller simmers that I like watching, but I have a problem in that I don't want to leave people out, and I know that if I start listing people, there'll be people I'll leave out. I will answer in a more general way now. I do watch big streamers like Deligracy now and then, and especially when a new pack comes out, because I like seeing the pack reviews that they do. But yeah, most of the time I watch other smaller YouTubers like myself because I like giving them some support, and I'm just interested in seeing, you know, the range of different streamers and YouTubers out there. I don't watch as much streaming because I actually find it takes up a lot of my spare time, whereas watching YouTubers is much easier for me to slot in, even though I have a lot of free time at the moment. It's just so much easier for me to watch YouTubers, and that's no insult to streamers. Maybe one day I would like to be a streamer. I've thought about it, but I haven't really got into it. Anyway, So off track, Frimlin. Focus, focus. What other packs do you want in The Sims 4? Well, in particular, the ones that come to mind include a magic focused pack. I'd really like to see that because I love magic. I've always loved magic. And so I'd like to see witches and wizards and that kind of thing. Otherwise, I would like to see more vacation game packs. I think they're great. I mean, I think that especially now we've had Jungle Adventure. I'm sorry, Outdoor Retreat, but you've been kind of put to shame by Jungle Adventure. But yeah, I'd like to see more vacation worlds and packs like that. Oh, I would really, really like to see some kind of pack that was focused around like an architectural career, like there was in Sims 3, where you can go around your world and do assignments for your Sims around town to adjust their houses and stuff like that. Oh, I love that so much. It was so fun because you got to learn a bit about building, plus you're actively helping your legacy world Sims to make their houses more suitable for the Sims that were living in them. I just thought that was brilliant. That was really good. So yeah, I would like a pack just like that. Finally, when do you think The Sims 5 will come out and what will be new or different? So this was actually talked about on Twitter recently, and I think it was in a Sims Social Sunday, and I gave my opinion there. So if you're curious, you can go back and look at my tweet history. I said a bit more there, but I think we're a few years away, so I think we might start hearing some mentions of it in 2020 and maybe a release around 2021, but I'm not too sure. But yeah, I think there's a couple of years left in Sims 4, and I really don't want Sims 5 to come out yet because I want Sims 4 to be more built up with content first. Sims 4 is a great stable base to add on to, and there's still a lot more that we'd like to see in the game, so I would like that to come to fruition first before we talk about Sims 5. So what could be new and different in Sims 5? The primary things that I'd like to see is I'd like to see a different art style, and that's not a critique of the Sims 4 art style. I just think it's an opportunity with the new Sims game to yet again choose a new art style. And some people loved, some people hated the art style of Sims 4. I'm okay with it personally myself, although it took a bit of adjustment from Sims 3. And I'd be curious to see a new art style for Sims 5. But then I'd also, as someone who got into the Sims type of games through mostly the Creatures series, that was way more focused on realistic behavior and much more depth to the actual characters. I would like to see Sims with deeper personalities, at least a very basic biology. If you don't know what I mean, check up on the Creatures series, you'll see it had a simulated biology. It was very complex though. It doesn't need to be that complex, and you know, as a game designer, I would love to make a game that was somewhere in between the two. But you know, I haven't had the opportunity to do that. Maybe one day. So yeah, that's about it. I'd like to see new art style and deeper, more interesting personalities to The Sims. Thank you so much, Scott. This is from Tella Dickerson, and she asks, are you an avid reader? Okay, so I used to be. In my teenage years, I was a big reader, and it did continue quite a bit into my 20s, but as I became more busy with my career, I did stop reading as much as I was in my teens, and it slowly petered out, and now I do most of my reading online or occasionally on my phone. I'd love to get some kind of pad or something like that to read on, because my phone is very difficult to read on. It's very small and I find it way too fiddly. But yeah, it's nice to be able to read in bed on something. But yeah, I don't read as many books nowadays, and most of my online reading, okay, I'm really into science news, so I read a lot of science news. and I have a subscription with New Scientist, which is a really great science magazine. So I now have just a purely digital subscription, and I think as time goes on I will probably do most of my reading in the digital format, although I love a good book and I love holding it in my hands. And it's great, for example, if you're on vacation or away from a computer, although I'm never away from a computer, to be able to read an actual book. There's just something about a book. So what genres do you enjoy? Well, I am really big into sci-fi and fantasy. I say would be my two main genres. Those are my two main ones, and I would occasionally read a few ones here and there. I do like some historically based books as well, like for example the TV series Outlander, you've probably heard of. I read all the books before it was ever thought of as a TV series. I read them when they first came out, so I really enjoyed that. It's completely unlike what I would usually read. I suppose if anything it's more similar to a fantasy. So historical books, slightly interesting as well. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? I think as I've become older, I've realized that what I really like, and I've lived in a few different places, but I've realized that what I really like about where I live is having a change of seasons. And I know that not all the world has that, or the seasons are different in some parts of the world. Like the closer you are to the equator, for example, you can end up not having 4 seasons. You could have maybe 2, like a rainy season and a dry season. Or you don't have any snow or a really cold winter. But I like the change of seasons, which makes you think about the seasons expansion pack for Sims 4. We want to see that very soon. Anyway, yeah, so where could I live in the world? Where would I be happy? I think it would have to be like a temperate place. So Europe is a good choice. I mean, I've lived in Europe since, well, for a while now, and I'm trying not to give away my exact age, but for a couple of decades I've lived in Europe, almost a couple of decades, not quite. And then I came from New Zealand, and that is also temperate. I liked being in New Zealand. I could probably live in Australia as well. Although, all the scary things you read about, the creatures, I don't know if I could deal with them. I'm sure I'd be fine. I'm just joking. And yeah, various parts of North America as well. But yeah, I think I'll just take it as it comes and see where, my adventures take me. Congrats on reaching 600 subscribers. Thank you, Talar. Thank you very much. Clover Simmer asks, who is your favourite Marvel superhero and why? So, to be honest, I've got to be really frank here, because otherwise I won't be answering honestly. I'm not massively into superheroes. I have found the recent focus, as in the last few years, focus on superheroes, I've just found it's gone well beyond my saturation point, and I'm not really interested in seeing many superheroes now. I think there's something about them that they're slightly unattainable as a goal in life. I mean, you can never have superhero characteristics. So I don't know. Don't know what my point was there bringing that up, but yeah, there's something. I'm not a big superhero fan. But when I was a kid, I did like Superman, and I particularly liked Batman. I used to watch Batman quite a bit when I was a kid. It was old reruns from the 60s or something like that. Something from well before I was born, just to clarify. But yeah, I have recently watched Jessica Jones on Netflix, and I really like that. I've watched both seasons now, and I have watched some of the other Netflix shows. Like, I quite liked Luke Cage as well, so I hope there's another season of that coming up. I didn't really get into Defenders. I haven't finished the first season. and I'm just hoping they're Marvel because I don't actually know for certain without looking it up right now. Anyway, any favorite non-simming YouTubers? Okay, I used to, because I'm also into the Civilization series, I used to watch a Civilization YouTuber called Drew Durnall. There's also Wowhead. They do a Wowhead weekly show. I watch them. That's for World of Warcraft, in case you're not sure. But otherwise, I don't watch really any other YouTubers. I have limited time, even though I am in between jobs at the moment. Interesting question. Do you believe in ghosts? If yes, can you tell us your craziest experience with them? I am quite scientific and believe science is a tool to help us understand the universe around us. And to be a true scientific mind, you need to have an open mind. And so, do I believe in ghosts? I haven't seen evidence to make me say, yes, I believe in ghosts. I have had spooky things happen to me, but nothing to really convince me. But, like I said, I have an open mind, and I'd be prepared to accept they exist if, if I saw something convincing enough, And as for my own experience with them, I'll tell you something that's closest to it. When I was, I don't know, about 7 or 8, I actually fell down the stairs in our family home and hit my head, and we had to get a doctor to come round to the house and check me out because I was really seriously concussed, and they were very worried because when you hit your head, I mean, you can actually die hitting your head. It can be very, very serious. Anyway, my point here is that for a while after that happened, I did tell some of my friends that I'd seen a ghost at the bottom of the stairs before I fell. And the thing is, I know that I didn't see a ghost. I just made it up. I wasn't trying to lie to them. I don't know. I was embellishing. But I was a kid. Please forgive me. But the more I told people about it, the more I believed it, and the more I even started having memories of it. So my point here is that the human mind is really powerful, and you can actually convince yourself of something over time. And that doesn't mean that I think that people who have had ghost experiences are all convincing themselves that they've seen it when they haven't. I accept that other people have their own experiences, but yeah, in my case, the only true experience that I could say was one that I made up and I convinced myself of. I'm going to leave out the last question there, Clover. It's very sensitive and I would rather skip it. But thank you for your questions. Right, so Tribesim asks, what's your favourite movie and what's your favourite band? Ooh, okay, favourite movie. Okay, so I like lots of movies, just to get that out of the way. But thinking about my favourite one, it's really tough. But one that comes to mind is one that deals with a personal subject close to my heart, which is my adoption. And it's called Secrets and Lies. And I think it was made in the 90s. And I suggest you check it out because it's a really... it's a very lovely and moving film. But yeah, I'm sure there are other films that I like a lot, or movies, and I can't think of them at the moment. I'm having a bit of a mind blank. What's your favourite band? I quite like REM. They're a band that I still listen to. I actually have found that now I'm a bit older, I still listen to lots of the music that was around when I was a teenager, and REM were quite big then. Yeah, most of the other music I listen to are solo singers rather than bands, but REM is definitely a band I listen to. Ramon asks, when was your first experience with The Sims? So that was playing Sims 1 when it first released. I bought it straight away and tried it, and yeah, as I said earlier, I didn't like it as much as, I'd like to be able to say that I did. I'd love to say that I really enjoyed it, but I was a bit put off by the graphics. I felt they were too simplistic. But yeah, I really liked it. I did play it quite a bit, but not as much as Sims 3 or Sims 4. What do you expect for the game in the future? I have touched on that already. Sorry, Ramon. But yeah, I'd like to see greater depth to the characters, and I'd like to see new art style, and I don't know, I'd just like to see the designers trying new things with each new pack. Thanks so much for your questions, Ramon. Lady Vi, otherwise known as Vahisha Taknai, asks, where do you get your inspiration for creating your builds? Well, there's no one place, absolutely not. I get inspiration from seeing pictures on the internet. I mean, I don't go looking for them really. I have a couple of times, but not in general. I sometimes get inspiration just from seeing other builders and what they've built. I have practical inspiration, like I decide for my Let's Plays they need a new home, so I build a house that's suitable for their family. And I also get inspiration for doing restricted pack stuff. Like, I love having a new pack and doing like a starter home for that pack because it keeps me focused on a measurable, achievable goal, like getting it under the simoleon limit, and also trying to showcase as many of the packed items. I just find that really fun. So that's why I do a lot of it. But yeah, otherwise, I don't know, inspiration just knocks on my door, or it doesn't, and when it doesn't, I don't build. I only build when I'm inspired, basically. And yeah, I've found it very hard to push myself to build sometimes. What made you start your YouTube channel in the first place? Well, it was after I left my last job, and there was two real reasons. One of them is I wanted to keep myself occupied, and also in my last job I worked a lot with YouTubers and streamers, yet I didn't really know what they did, and also I had no skills at all with making videos. So I wanted to learn how YouTubers did their thing. I wanted to learn more about running a YouTube channel, and I wanted to learn how to edit videos, and I've done all that. I've been working on this for a year or so, just over a year. So I did it for that specific reason. There was just some very specific reasons, keeping myself occupied and learning new skills, and yeah, I've achieved them. I'm ready to move on now, but I would like to also keep the channel going if I can. But it's possible in my next job that I can't. So yeah, we'll deal with that when we come to it. When you're not in The Sims, what's your favourite thing to do? When I'm not in The Sims, what do you mean? My favourite thing at the moment would be watching and interacting with people on Twitter. You can't see me answer this question and know me on Twitter without knowing that I spend a lot of time there, and I like talking to people, and I love retweeting people and helping other people out, to get exposure and stuff like that. So yeah, that's something I'm enjoying at the moment. But when I'm not so Sims focused, I would be playing other games like World of Warcraft, Civilization 6, Stellaris, and yeah, but mostly yeah, I would either be working or playing a game, basically, or sleeping. Sometimes I sleep. Thank you so much for your questions, Vi. So, Josip asks, what kind of music are you usually listening to? So at the moment, I've been going through phases of listening to lots of Lana Del Rey. There's a kind of a sadness to some of her songs, which kind of I really latched onto. You won't know this, but in the last year, in 2017, for a lot of the year, I was mourning the loss of my closest friend, and Lana kind of tapped into that feeling and helped me get through it. I also listened to a lot of Enya and kind of Celtic music like that. I don't listen to a lot of music anymore. I used to all the time. What is your opinion on The Sims 4 seasons, leaks, and hints? Well, I think the seasons is a gimme, as it were. It's something that is going to happen absolutely for Sims 4. Is it going to happen this year? I think is pretty likely to happen this year, actually. So I think we will have an announcement about that within the next few months. If it's not at EA Play, it will be before then, and you'll be able to hear more about it at EA Play or something like that. That's my guess. But yeah, we're kind of waiting for that, and now that we've got pets out the way, seasons is the next really logical one, I would say. Final question: do you plan? Is your wish to go to Sims Camp ever? So, keeping the channel is a hobby for me. I have known that while I've been keeping it and trying to keep it regularly updated, that my intention is to get a job again, and I know that when I have a job I will not be able to do that many videos, so I've tried to keep the amount of videos I do per week at a more manageable level so that I will hopefully be able to continue doing them in a new job. But especially because the last couple of jobs I've had has been as a community manager in a games company, it's very likely that they won't want me to do a games channel for a competitor's game or something like that. So it's possible I might have to close the channel, and I'm sorry to mention that, but there you go. So yeah, do I wish to go to Sims Camp? Yeah, it'd be cool, it'd be absolutely fun to go there, but you're talking about so far in the future. I mean, I would have to have many thousands more subscribers before that was even a consideration, so it would be cool, but I just don't think it's likely at all. Anyway, thanks for the questions. Let's move on. So Pathetica asks me, how did you end up in France? So I moved to France to work for Blizzard Europe, to support mostly World of Warcraft, which I've been playing a lot at that time. I've played World of Warcraft since it was released. I finished a design job in the UK, and I was looking for other design jobs. I've been a game designer since 1999, and now you're gonna start guessing my age. And yeah, I love game design. I would still be designing games now, but at the time I looked around at other games design jobs in the UK, and for some reason I was only looking at the UK because I'd only worked in the UK as a designer at that point, and there wasn't really any jobs that I was really excited by. And I find that I do my best work when I'm excited by the concept of the game as a designer, and also as a community manager, but it's less necessary for a community manager because I think, in that kind of career you need to be flexible with the types of games you support, because you can't always have the luxury of working on a game that you love. But yeah, so I came across to France to work for Blizzard on World of Warcraft mostly, but eventually also StarCraft 2 when it came out, and Diablo 3 as well. And yeah, here I am still in France. So thanks for your question, Pathetica. So Smurfette asks, what was your favourite cartoon growing up? Well, it's actually funny that Simguru Hoots recently mentioned DuckTales because I did like DuckTales. I also, there was like actually, okay, I love lots of different cartoons, so please don't judge me. I love the Smurfs. Oh, Smurfs has to be it. Smurfs was fun. But yeah, I'm gonna think later. Oh, why didn't I think of this particular cartoon? Trying to think of some other ones. Oh yeah, that's enough. I've got to keep moving on. What's your favourite season? And what's the best thing you like to do in it? Okay, so I don't really have a favourite season, but like I said earlier, I like seasons. I would like to always live in a place that has distinct seasons if I can. But in my career you have to be flexible and move almost anywhere, so maybe I will not always live in a place that has seasons. But I always like the idea of walking in autumn on a warm night with leaves falling and leaves on the ground. I don't know, there's something about that. I find that it's a very romantic idea. So that always springs to my mind. Hopefully that answers the questions. Were you ever into comics? No, not really. I think I did read a bit of Asterix when I was a kid, a teenager or something like that, but not really a big comic fan. And what is your favourite? Well, I suppose it was Asterix. I can't really think of any other ones that I used to read, so yeah. Thanks for your question, Smurfette. Designer / gamer, also known as Brandon, asks, if you could live life as one of your Sims, who would you choose to be? Okay, so I don't really want to be any of my Sims. But if I had to, I suppose I would probably go with my current Sim, the vampire vet, Rodney, because he's a vampire and he lives forever, and I don't know, I think it would be really interesting. And just from a purely kind of scientific curiosity kind of perspective, to live for a very long time and to see, you know, the progress of humanity. And yeah, I think living for a long time is very appealing to me. Sucking blood from people, no, that doesn't really appeal to me at all. But yeah, yeah, I think I'm answering that. Anyway, thanks for your question. Let me move on. Vilma Wood, or Wilma Wood, whose real name is actually Lucy, asks, where do you think your coffee addiction stems from, and also do you think you'll ever run out of coffee gifts? Okay, so where do it's not really a coffee addiction. I mean, I could actually give up coffee. I've given up things before and moved on. I do tend to go through phases with foods. So I could give up the coffee if I really wanted to, but there's no reason to at the moment. I like coffee in the morning, but I wouldn't say it's a coffee addiction. But at the same time, I haven't tried to stop. But I didn't always like coffee. I only got into it in my 20s. I hated milky coffees. People always would give me milky coffees when I was a teenager or whatever. And I didn't like them at all. But when I first had some black coffees, actually I had espressos first. They were my first coffees. When I was working in my first game design job in the UK, in Cambridge in the UK in 1999. And yeah, I was given some espressos, like a double espresso or something strong like that, and they're kind of bitter. It's not the nicest flavour on the planet, but for some reason it really appealed to me. And I have never looked back, and I still have black coffees to this day. Will I ever run out of coffee gifts? Well, you might not realise, but I actually reuse a lot of my gifts. But there are also new ones. I try and find new ones. But will I ever run out? No, not if I reuse them, no. Not if people keep making them, no. And to direct your own question back at you, ooh, let's see. Which one is your favourite pack in each category and why? So we've already established Cats and Dogs as the expansion pack. I mean, I love all the expansion packs actually. I would have said Get to Work was my least favourite at one point as a builder. But actually, for Let's Plays, I love, and for just general playing, I love the active careers, and I'd like to see more. I'd like to see another Get to Work pack. Wouldn't that be great? I think so. But perhaps they could do like a one active career game pack instead, would be good. Like the Architect one that I mentioned earlier. So, game packs. I really love the inclusion of vampires. And I liked that they focused on it and made it quite rich in a game pack rather than grouping them all together in an expansion or something like that and not doing each one as much justice as they did with vampires. And I remember I was also very excited about Vampires game pack when it first came out. But I love Parenthood and how it increased the complexity of their personalities a bit. It is pretty minor, but it did change their personalities, so I like that. But I also really love jungle adventure. But I'll go with vampires because I'm being decisive, let's see. I'm trying anyway. So stuff packs also, I think, in general, apart from the odd exception, not naming any names, in general they've got better over time. But a big favourite for me has to be the Vintage Glamour one. I just loved it as a builder. Um, it doesn't have as much gameplay. Okay, a butler, but I don't use the butler now. But I loved Vintage Glamour, and if you look back, I did quite a few builds with it. Laundry Day pack, also very great pack, but it's got that newness factor. Maybe in time I won't like it as much. And I also think because it was a community pack, community designed pack, they might have put more budget into it than the normal stuff pack, because I think there's something special about the pack. But yeah, so Vintage Glamour as a stuff pack, although I'm probably going to regret that later. Vampires as the game pack, and Cats and Dogs as the expansion pack. Thanks so much, Lucy. Bree Miles asks, what was your biggest struggle in gaming, and what is the most favourite part of gaming? Biggest struggle in gaming? Bree, that's kind of an odd question, because if I'm struggling in gaming, I'm not gaming. I'm not enjoying it, and I absolutely game for enjoyment. If I'm not enjoying it, I stop, basically, and I have absolutely stopped playing a game when I've not enjoyed it as much. So I think probably the best kind of answer I can give you is a kind of a related answer, which is I have struggled focusing on Sims 4 for my channel, because I didn't usually, when I play a game, I play it for a little while, then I get bored, or my energy levels for it or something drop and I need a break. But since I made my channel, although it started with World of Warcraft videos, you might not realize, I've taken them down now. The channel is Sims 4 focused, and I wanted to keep it like that. I wanted to keep it pure. I think possibly if I was to focus on other games, I might have them in this channel, but I might also just open new channels that are focused on those games instead. If I have the time, which I haven't found that I do yet. And also, like I said, I want to keep things manageable for when I have a job again. Yeah, so my struggle has been continuing to play and build in Sims 4 and keep the content for my channel rolling. I have had a few little breaks, but yeah, it has been a struggle, absolutely, because it's not my natural thing to just stick with one game. And I know some of the questions that come up in this question, in this Q&A, say, do you only play The Sims? And at the moment, it's pretty much the only game I play. I do play a bit of World of Warcraft still, and I occasionally play some Civ 6, Civilization 6, and Stellaris, but yeah, a lot of Sims 4 at the moment. Thanks for the question, Bree. So, Tiger asks, or Shira asks, I'm probably saying your name wrong, if you were on the developing team of The Sims 4, would there have been something you would have added to the base game? The stuff that I want for Sims 5, basically. I mean, I would like to have added more personality depth. But the team has worked hard to keep the game stable and responsive, and they had to make some very tough decisions in the design of the game. No open world, no creator style, things like that I apparently have had a big effect on the stability of the game. I mean, so yeah, I would like to see just a bit more depth to the personalities at the very least. Anyway, thanks for the question. Let me move on. So Nick is now asking, are there any builds that you would still really want to do? Yes, loads. I absolutely have no problems with ideas. I am always having ideas. And I think it's also very important to mention that it's okay to have lots of ideas and not always implement them. because you can be an ideas guy and you can specialize in having the ideas. And I would love to spend all the time in the world making these ideas, you know, actual builds. But in the end, I don't know, maybe 10% of the ideas I actually make into builds. So many people have their own skills. They're able to be super industrious and make lots of builds, or great let's plays, or wonderful machinimas, beautiful sims and create a sim, whatever. Everyone has their own skills, and yeah, I would like to say that my skill is having lots of ideas. So yeah, there are loads of builds that I'd like to do, and no, I couldn't list them. I'll try though. I'll try and list them. I like to do lots of different family houses. I have hardly done any modern builds. I'd like to do more modern builds because there's so much. You have so much more freedom. I'd like to do more commercial builds. Lots of restaurants and commercial lots that you can visit and stuff like that. How do you drink your coffee? Black, no sugar. That's it. And what would you still like to see being added in Sims 4? Well, after seasons and witches, then to be honest, I'm less fussy about it. I mean, I would like to see werewolves as well, but mostly because Sims in my world are basically, they descend from the Sims that I had in Sims 3. I basically recreated a group of them, about a dozen of them, from Sims 3, and I had a legacy world there as well. Some of them were werewolves, and some of them were fairies, and some of them were plant sims. So I would like to see proper plant sims. The ones that we have now, not proper. They're temporary. What are you doing, Maxis? Make them proper plant sims. And I'd like to see werewolves come back, and I'd like to see fairies. I know it sounds funny, but I just love them, and yeah, so I'd like to see them as well. But otherwise, I'm completely open. There's nothing that I'm fanatical about seeing, and I just like to see more stuff. But yeah, I particularly like life states. I like worlds. I like new objects, and that's about it. Thanks for your questions, Nick. Let me move on. So Emma is asking me, did you play any Sims game before Sims 4? So you know the answers now, but yes, I played all of them. My favourite one, though, was Sims 3. It finally had, I felt, a really good graphic style, and it had a lot of content, and the store stuff, you could, I don't know, whether it was true or not, in comparison, I felt there was just more content for Sims 3 than Sims 4. And I would like to see more content for Sims 4, basically. So yeah. What is your favourite stuff pack, game pack, and expansion pack? I've already answered that, Emma, so I'm going to skip that. But yeah, Vintage Glamour, Vampires game pack, and Cats and Dogs. But that's only because I'm indecisive. I do like all the other packs as well, all of them. Well, okay, maybe a few stuff packs I could have left behind. But yeah, that's how they're designed. They're supposed to be optional. What is your dream job? Well, I am very lucky in that one of my first jobs was my dream job, and that was to be a game designer. And I have been a game designer. I was a game designer for about 10 years, just under 10 years. And also, I love interacting with people and being social. So one of my dream jobs was being a community manager, and I have been a community manager now for 2 games company. One of them is a games company that I love. You know, I love World of Warcraft. I still love playing World of Warcraft to this day. So yeah, what would be next? I would love to work for Maxis, absolutely, sure, but whether it would happen or not, I've got no idea, but that would be great. So yeah, my dream job now would be to work for Maxis. But otherwise, outside of the careers that I've already worked in, when I was a teenager, I kind of trained to become an actor, but I don't really want to get into acting again. But I also loved writing, and so my other dream job is one that I've had for a long time since I was a teenager, and that is to be a writer. And I still actually intend to write books eventually, sometime in my life. Hopefully we'll find a way to extend lives so that I can live a bit longer and have a bit more time to write later on. Or, you know, maybe I will leave the games career, the games industry, and become a writer instead. So who knows? Who knows? We shall see. All will be revealed in time. Thanks so much for your questions, Emma. So we have a question from Mina, and she's saying, how did you get started playing and building in The Sims? Well, you know now how I got into The Sims. I've been playing it since the start. How did I get into building? I've always been building for my Sims. I didn't really get into it that much until Sims 3, but even then I think I shared maybe one of my houses. So I didn't really get into building until Sims 4. And I remember I think I uploaded a very small house or a room or something like that, and I got, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 downloads, and I was like, whoa, that's cool, and it just got me so excited, so it built from there, you know. Yeah, that's what got me into it, just trying it out and seeing what it was like. But it wasn't really until Sims 4 that I started sharing my builds, and I think the more I've built, the better I've got. I would like to think so anyway, but I think occasionally I still do builds that are a bit weak, is the best way to describe them. But I also keep trying to do better builds, but I don't feel any particular pressure. I just build what I like, basically, and hopefully you'll like it too. Anyway, thanks for your questions, Mina. Let me move along. So, Savvy Sims asks, what is your favourite Sims expansion? So you didn't actually say Sims 4. So Sims 4 was cats and dogs. Sims 3, I don't remember the expansions off the top of my head. As in which ones were expansions or which ones were smaller packs, or were they all expansions? I don't know, because the line between what was store content and what was an expansion, I don't really remember. I mean, World Adventures comes to mind, but that's just because I've been thinking about it recently with Jungle Adventure. I don't even remember all the names of the expansion. There was Generations, wasn't there? Generations was particularly good. So yeah, cats and dogs for Sims 4 and Generations, World Adventures. I don't know. So many great expansion packs. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I can't answer it. Thanks for your question, though, Savvy Sims. Right. So Senile Simmer asks, "What's your favourite food?" Very good question. I like food. I definitely like food. Love chocolate. What's my favourite food? I don't know. That's a really tough question. But I really like cheese. So if not chocolate, which can be a bit too sweet sometimes, and too sickly, cheese is also very nice. I like a good curry as well. Something I've learned since when I moved to the UK. I'd never had a curry before, but then I had some curries and I really like them. So I like a chicken curry. So things beginning with C I tend to like. Yeah, anyway, thanks for your question, Terry, aka Senile Simmer. We've got a question from Ms. Walker, and she said, what made you start your own YouTube channel and who inspired you? So I have already touched on this. I started the YouTube channel because I was in between jobs. I wanted something to keep focused on and to keep doing that was work-like, and also something that gave me more skills, and it has done all those things and more. I've also met a lot of really lovely people. And who inspired you? Well, yeah, I've mentioned this as well, but the first YouTuber for Sims that I got into was Deligracy, and so she inspired me, and since then a whole lot of YouTubers have inspired me. That's about the best I can answer that. Anyway, thanks for your question, Ms. Walker. So now we're moving on to questions on my YouTube comment section, and Kata, aka Hey K21, well that's tricky for me to say, she asks, which thing would you change about The Sims 4? Well, I have already touched on this. I'd like to see deeper personalities in The Sims. I would also like to see, as a builder, I'd like to see something. I know we can't have creator style because it was, you know, it was a memory hog or it caused stability issues. But I would like to see at least being able to switch between the different options that we have a bit more, so that you could take the pillow color from one option on the sofa and use it on another instead. You know, I'd like to be able to change some of the things around. As a game designer, I suspect that that won't be as taxing. Well, it just won't be. I just know it. And I think it's possible that the team actually might give us something like that in the future. Being able to switch around the existing options on items. But it would take a lot of setting up. Someone would have to step through all the items and designate which bits can switch around. It would take a lot of work, but it would be a nice thing to do. So it's possible that it won't ever happen because it's hard to justify the cost of something like that. It would cost, and it would take away development time from something else. So it's possible we won't get that. But yeah, yeah. I think I'm answering your questions. More deeper personalities, and I would like a bit more options in terms of changing the styles of items. Anyway, so X Opal Squirrel asks, what family in The Sims 4 do you like the most to play with? At the moment, I'm only playing my Let's Play families, and they just happen to be the next generation of Sims that I've been playing since Sims 4 came out. I play basically generation by generation in my legacy world, and that's why my legacy world and my Let's Plays is so rich. And you know, all the Sims, I know them very well because yeah, I've been playing them since 2014, on and off. But yeah, so I currently like playing my Angel and Alien family, but I think now that the kids are growing up, I feel like I need to refocus them a bit, so there might be some changes coming to that family. I like also my Vampire Vet family as well, but I honestly think I could come to like any family in Sims 4. So what build do you like the best? What build that I've done? I assume you mean. I really like my Ellesmere house build. Unlike a lot of my builds, it uses loads of different packs. I like the style, the kind of vampire style, but there's issues with the garden. The garden should be bigger and more interactive. I can't choose one of my builds, no way. I like a current build that I'm working on. I'm building a new family home. It was slightly intended to be a possible new home for my Angel and Alien family, but I think it's a bit too small for them. But maybe a retirement home for them. But yeah, I always seem to like my current build. So that's probably a good thing. What do you like? What do you like The Sims 4? I think you mean what do you like most about The Sims 4? Yeah, I just like relaxing with it, and it doesn't give me any stress. Other games I play do stress me. Like World of Warcraft can have some quite hectic fighting in it. And luckily there's a choice of different options of how tough your fighting is. When I was younger, I was able to play, more hectic gameplay. Now I'm a bit older. I prefer just to keep my stress levels down. So Sims 4 really plays well with that. So yeah, I like Sims 4 a lot because it de-stresses me and relaxes me. Why did you start your YouTube channel at first? Well, I have already touched that. I'm going to skip that one. What Sims 4 pack is your favorite? I have already answered that one as well. And it was cats and dogs, although I'm probably going to regret it. Anyway, thanks for your questions, X Opal Squirrel. So Whispered Weeds asks, why did you ever leave New Zealand? That is a very common question. I hear that not just online, but also in the real life as well, because people are like, why did you ever leave such a beautiful little country on the bottom of the planet, Well, I left because I got a games design job I'd been playing the game Creatures, and I was a fan of it. I opened my own website for it. They did have websites back in the 90s, just so you know, but they were very simplistic compared to what we have now. And I learned HTML, and I made my own little website for the Creatures game, and it was actually in the end voted the most popular Creatures website in the world in 1998, I think it was, and I won like a special award from the company that made the game. I used to make basically the equivalent of mods for that game, so I was a modder 20 years ago, almost. Yeah, about 20 years ago. Whoa. And I loved it, and I had a lot of fans on my website. So yeah, I applied for a job at Creature Labs, which is the name of the company that made the game Creatures, the game series Creatures, and they said come over for an interview. And I'm sure they did not expect that I would actually do that, you know, because it's expensive. It's expensive, and we're not rich. I mean, I might have a slightly posh sounding voice, but I'm not rich. And yeah, so at great expense, I came over for an interview, and they offered me a job. And yeah, I've lived in Europe ever since. So yeah, that's why I left New Zealand. And it was tough leaving a beautiful country like New Zealand. I do love New Zealand. But it was more exciting for me to be a game designer, so that's why I left. Anyway, thanks for your question, Whisperweeds. Very good one. Moving on. Christy Sims asks, why did you start your channel? I've touched that one already, Christy, so I'm going to leave that one. What hobbies do you have? Playing games. Running a YouTube channel. No, that sounds awful, doesn't it? But I'm being honest, that's what I do mostly now. Do you play any other game besides The Sims? Well, I have already touched that now. Sorry, Christy. But yeah, I play World of Warcraft a lot, every day. In fact, just like The Sims. In fact, I don't always play The Sims every day, but I always play World of Warcraft, I think, almost every day. But sometimes only for a couple of minutes just to check up on my characters, because there's always daily stuff that you can do. They actually have type of game content called dailies, you know, that you can do as well. So that's something just to play with for a little while and then move on. And sometimes I play it a bit longer as well. And then I also play Civilization 6, strategy game. And I have loved Civilization since it first came out in the 90s as well. And I've bought every version of Civilization and loved them and played them loads. And then Stellaris is similar to Civilization, similar but different, but it's based in space rather than on Earth, and a strategy game as well. And you know, because it's based in space, and I'm a sci-fi fanatic, it is kind of like a perfect mix of some of the things I like, you know, strategy plus sci-fi. So yeah, I've really got into Stellaris, and actually it seems that I've played Stellaris more than Civilization 6, which is a first, because I played all of the Civilization games a lot. So I'm surprised that the game has taken over that. But there you go. And I would play a lot more games if I had more time, but I don't. Thanks for your questions, Christy. I'm sorry I've already answered some of them, but yeah, let me move on. So, Laurie Horter asks, what inspires you? Well, we've touched on that already, Laurie. I'm so sorry, Laurie. Laurie is a really big fan. She's come back a lot. Thank you so much, Laurie. Can you speak any other language? Je parle français, mais juste un petit peu. What I just said was, I speak French, but just a little bit. I should speak more French, but the trouble is when you live in France and you only interact with English speakers, both in the real world in your job and online, unless you go out of your way to learn the language or to interact with French speakers, there's really no pressure to learn. And after a while I gave up wanting to learn French, and I became a bit stubborn about it, to be completely honest. But I would love to learn it more, and I can imagine once I leave France I will learn it more, you know, because it's just interesting to learn another language. And I have heard that it helps increase your intelligence to learn more languages. So I would I can't really say I speak French. I speak un petit peu, and I can understand a little bit, and I can read it quite well. But I struggle very much to understand people speaking in French. I just can't do it. So, yeah, I don't really speak other languages. The answer, but a little bit of French. Do you play any other Sims? I suppose you mean other than my Let's Play Sims, and the answer is no. Up until recently, just recently, just before the twins in my Angel and Alien series aged up to teenage, I wasn't quite ready to play them, so I did start a completely new world with some new Sims in it, just because I wanted to play Sims without the twins aging up. But yeah, otherwise, no, I don't play any other Sims. What would you change about the Sims if you could? I have touched on that already, Laurie. I'm sorry, I need to kind of finish up this video, and I'm still just over 2/3 of the way through the questions, so I'm going to have to skip ahead. How long have you had your kitty? I have had Rodney, my beautiful kitten, for about... he's not really a kitten anymore. For about 6 years, I think. Roughly? Maybe a bit older than that. And to me, he looks like an overgrown kitten. But he is a cat. He's an adult. He's well and truly an adult. And I absolutely love him to bits. He has been great company over the years, especially the last year, 2017. My gap year, my sabbatical year. Yeah, so I love him to bits. How much coffee do you drink in a day? Well, I go on and on about coffee on Twitter, but I don't think I drink really that much. Sometimes only 3 cups. I know that's still maybe 3 times more than most people, but 3 or 4 cups at the maximum. I usually only have it in the morning, and then after that I don't want to have it in the afternoon. I just lose the desire, and I definitely do not have it in the evening because, you know, like I said, I'm quite into science, and the more coffee you drink, the more it affects you. It might not keep you awake, but it does affect your quality of sleep. So if you are drinking coffee in the evening and you're also having bad sleeping patterns, think about it and stop drinking your coffee in the evening. Anyway, thanks for your questions, Laurie. So I promised that I would show Rodney to a couple of people. He's not being very cooperative today, and it's a really nice sunny day, so he's trying to spend as much time as he can outside. But here's Rodney. Hang on, Rodney. Look at the camera. Look at the camera. He really doesn't want to look at the camera. Come on. Come on. No, it's not going to happen. He's very uncomfortable. He doesn't like the way I'm holding him, which is not the way I normally hold him. You know, it's like he's feeling very strange. But yeah, he's a very friendly, loving cat. A good friend of mine suggested that perhaps I needed a bit of company. There he is. So yeah, I got Rodney to give me a bit of company, and he has done exactly that. He's been a great companion for years now. So yeah, this is Rodney, and he is my best friend. And I love him very much. He's like my little kitten baby, aren't you, Rodney? Just a standard European short-haired tabby cat. Yeah, and anyway, he's gone now. Okay, so Kat asks, I want to know how you remain so calm and focused during your presentations. Do you meditate before you do voiceovers? I haven't meditated since I was a teenager, and I did when I was a teenager for a little while because I was really interested in that kind of thing. But no, I don't meditate. I think I draw on the skills I've learned, especially in the games industry, because I've done lots of... When I was a games designer, I did lots of presentations of games, and also, especially as a community manager, I've done lots of game presentations to small and large audiences, but all along I've also been drawing on the acting skills I learned as a teenager. So yeah, that's what I use to focus and do my presentations. Thanks for the great question, Kat. Gamer Granny Tana, also known as Eva, asks, why do you build gameplay focused... think she means, why do you build gameplay focused builds? And what do you mean by gameplay focused? Well, in fairness, Eva, I have now removed mentions of gameplay focused from my channel, I think. But yeah, basically what I meant by that was, okay, so a lot of builders do very artistic builds that I don't think are as usable in game, especially the really big builds. It's very hard to use them properly in the game. For me, a gameplay focused build is, or was, because I don't actually care about it as much now to do that, was having builds that were in budgets. So I would have lots of starter builds. I would have what I would call starter plus builds, which were like up to 40,000, and then I would make more expensive builds than that. But I would want builds that were affordable in your general play. I would like builds that had been tested so that there was no problems with them, especially if you're using move objects cheat. You can put objects in strange positions, you can block the access of Sims to certain objects. So for me, another aspect of being a gameplay focused builder was making sure that the builds were very easy to use and didn't have any gameplay problems and stuff like that. So yeah, just very focused on good gameplay and not necessarily very artistic. So thanks a lot for your question, Eva. Megan Joe Sims asks, what EP would you like to see happen in Sims 4? This can include anything that we have yet to see in Sims games or the same old, same old. Well, I have talked about this already, but I'd like to see more magic stuff. So I suppose I would love to see, if not as separate game packs for like witches and wizards, then it would be good to see like an expansion pack that had witches and wizards and werewolves and fairies. That would be cool. Otherwise, I don't really have a very strong expectation of expansions. I think at the very start of Sims 4, I would have said cats, dogs, or I would have said pets, and I would have said seasons, you know, the obvious ones. But otherwise, no, I'll just take it as it comes. I don't have very strong expectations for expansions. Where in the real world would you like to travel to that you've never been before? There's loads of places. I've never been to China. Well, I've been to Hong Kong when I was like a baby, but I have never been to China. I'd like to see some of China. I'd like to see a bit of Japan. I suppose I'd like to see Egypt. I really love historical things, so I'd love to see parts of Greece and other parts of Italy. I was lucky to actually go to Italy within the last few years. Oh gosh, there's so many lovely places in the planet. I would love to go to South America. That would be nice. Yeah, I would like to see as much of the world as I possibly can, but you know, unless I get lots of money, that's not gonna happen. What would your dream house be like? Well, I haven't mentioned this one already, Megan Joe, so I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to skip this a bit, but yeah, just basically like a good solid house that was attractive and had a good garden. And yeah, I don't have very strong desires for a certain type of house or a certain design or style or whatever. I just like a well-kept house in good condition with a nice garden, bit of privacy, as much beauty as I can afford, you know, that kind of thing. But dream house, it doesn't necessarily mean stuff you can afford, but I'd also like to have lots of spare rooms so that I can invite family and friends around and stuff like that, and have lots of, as well as a garden, I'd like to have places to grow vegetables and fruit. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you could grow all your own food? I don't know, that really appeals to me. Anyway, thanks so much for your question, Megan Joe. So, Antomy asks, what is your favourite colour? I love lots of different colours, but I'm going to go with purple. But I also really love green, so purple and green. I think I probably like green a bit more than purple. I don't know. No, very, very even, my likes there. What was your favourite subject in school and why? I was really into science at school. But I also, in high school, I did a bit of acting as well, like I've already mentioned, and I really loved that. I also loved creative writing. We did a creative writing course when I was about 16 or so. And as someone who's always considered themselves a writer, I loved writing, and yeah, so there you go. Do you believe extraterrestrial life exists? So, like I said already, with ghosts, I have a scientific mind, so that basically the pure scientific mind is open to anything and is not closed on any subject. Even stuff that has had evidence, I think you should still remain a little open on. Do I think extraterrestrial life exists? I think the universe is vast, and I think it's conceited in a way to think that just Earth has life. But it also connects on to the next question: are you religious, and if so, what religion? I don't follow a particular religion, but I think science has kind of proven that humans have a tendency to believe in religions. I was raised around religions, but my family, the family that I was raised in, weren't religious. But there was a religious family right next door to us, and so I'm very open and understanding to religions, basically. But not religious myself. So yeah, could there be extraterrestrial life in the world, in the universe, somewhere? Absolutely, I think there could. I err on the side of saying there absolutely has to be, because it's such a vast universe, and whether it was evolved or it was created, well, that's for someone else to answer. But you know, I have my preference there as well. But I also think that, you know, there's like a thin line between what the universe has created and what a god has created. So maybe the universe is God. That's something I've always wondered. But yeah, I don't know. It's a very sensitive subject as well. So how does it feel being 400 away from 1,000 subscribers? Well, you know, I was, for all of last year, my subscriber growth was actually really, I would say, quite slow. I was only at just under 300 at the end of the year, and then just this year it took off at the start of the year. I think it was because a well-known male YouTuber was away for a couple of weeks, and I think just a tiny fraction of his subscriber base actually started looking around and saw some of my videos. That's my theory. I don't know. Yeah, so I think 1,000 is a long way away. That's my feeling. So I don't know if it will even happen. I certainly don't take it for granted that it would happen. And also, I don't think it matters. I think the more that you can make yourself convinced that it doesn't matter, the more that you can just sit back and enjoy what you have. And I actually decided around 275 subscribers last year. I decided that I was happy with that number, because I can imagine 275 people around me and talking to them in a big group. And I thought, this is a number to be happy with. Basically, I wanted to focus on that, to try and stop myself being so worried when subs go up and down. And I think the best thing you can do is not be worried about that if you can. And to help me through that, I decided that I really liked 275. So when my subscribers go up and down, I mean, especially if they go down, I always think, well, it's still more than 275, so I'm happy, you know. And because the growth recently has been so big compared to last year, it also feels a bit unreal. So yeah, I'm happy with how it is, and if it gets to 1,000, that's great. But as a hobby, it's also, you know, I'll just take it as it comes. Anyway, thanks for your questions, Anthony. So Jules asks, what is your favourite building style? I don't have a favourite building style. My favourite building style is to try different things. No, I can't really think of anything in particular that I enjoy. I mean, I've discussed this in comments recently with some of my viewers, but yeah, I don't really have a particular favourite style. I just like building, and I like trying new things. Where is your favourite place to live? My favourite place to live was actually when I was living, the place I lived in when I was first a games designer, Cambridge in the UK. I just loved it. It was very historic and charming, and yeah, that was my favourite place to live, and I always look back on my time in Cambridge very fondly. I think it's around the same time of your life that most people are in university and stuff like that, but I was working. I didn't go to university, so I think people do tend to have very kind of idealistic views about that time of their life, and I would love to live in Cambridge again. Anyway, what sparked your interest in Sims initially? I've talked about that already, Jules. Of course you didn't know that, but yeah, I'm gonna have to skip that. But yeah, it followed on from my love of creatures and simulation games in general. When did you start playing building? I started playing with Sims 1, and I started really building in Sims 4. Thanks so much for your questions, Jules. Right, so Toasty Simmer asks, what is your favourite thing about being on YouTube? My favourite thing is having something to focus on and to keep myself busy and occupied. That's honest, and of course I also really love, because I'm a sociable, friendly kind of guy, despite also being an introvert. I test always as an introvert. I'm not actually an extrovert, although I think most people probably assume I'm an extrovert. I'm not. I can burn out very quickly in big social environments, but I love interacting with people, so that's another thing I like about the channel. If you could have your say in creating a pack for The Sims, what would you create? I would probably go with a very magical focused pack, and lots of interesting spells and stuff like that. What YouTubers do you watch and recommend others watch? I recommend watching a range, like I do, of different smaller YouTubers. But I think it's completely fair to have your favourite big YouTuber and to keep watching them. I do go back to my old favourites like Telegraphy. And yeah, hopefully I've answered your questions, Toasty Summer. New subscriber Emiola asks, I'd like to know, how long have you been playing The Sims? Since it first came out. Have you played previous ones? Yes, all of them. If so, which is your favourite? My favourite was Sims 4. And before that it was Sims 3. But Sims 4 is just way more stable than Sims 3 ever was. But I loved all the content in Sims 3. So yeah, my favourite is Sims 4. I'm also wondering how the heck you think so out of the box. I just always try and do something different. So that's what helps me think out of the box. Like, what inspires you to limit yourself to a couple of packs? I like working to restrictions. I think if I'm not working to a restriction, I can feel a bit lost in the possibilities. So having restrictions helps focus me. Do you plan your houses before you build, like roughly draw them out or something? Sometimes I imagine them in my head. I might imagine roughly what the door area, the front door area might like, or I might decide in my head I want to build with wood and black and white, or I want to build a place that has lots of plants. That's about all I would do in my head. I wouldn't draw them out, no. I would just build them straight away in the game. And, you know, a lot of my builds, I would love to go back and rebuild them, but, you know, there's just time constraints. So, you know, they were often my first attempt at doing what I was thinking of. And so they may not have been my best, you know, attempt, but I was just trying things out and then I moved on. So yeah, thanks so much for your questions, Emiola, and welcome to the channel. So, Bree Simulated asks, what is your main source of inspiration? I've talked about inspiration already, so I'll skip ahead with that one. Have you ever had any struggles along the way with your channel? Absolutely, yes. I think the biggest problem I've had is because I'm in between jobs. I get so focused on the channel, it has distracted me away sometimes with looking for jobs. That's been a problem. Also, keeping my mood up. Because I was dealing with, I think I mentioned already, but I was dealing with the loss. I was going through a mourning process basically for many months, and I needed time to get through that and to heal. So that affected my mood, and it affected my channel output. In fact, I had a little breakaway for a couple of months near the start of 2017. Do you have any advice for smaller YouTubers? Yes. Keep trying. Keep trying to improve at least one thing at a time. I only recently added an intro and an outro to my videos. I know, crazy, right? But that's something that I added, and I've actually tried to make them better as over time. You know, so I work on a little bit here and there to try and make the videos a bit better, basically. And yeah, my biggest advice is try not to focus on... Don't focus, if you can, on the numbers, because, you know, they can really play with your mind. I mean, humans are very number focused. It would be lovely if you could turn off seeing the subscriber numbers yourself, but still be able to show them to other people. But don't be focused on the numbers. Just enjoy what you're doing. If you're not enjoying it, you're not going to be liked by other people. This is harsh but true, but if you're obviously struggling or not putting full energy into it, people are going to tell. And I think that was also probably limited my growth last year, is that I was going through a healing process. I was going through grief and mourning for at least the first half of the year, and I'm sure it affected my mood and affected how I came across. Some of those old videos are still there, and you can make your own judgment. I don't know, I've said that, I feel like taking them down, but I'm not going to. Yeah, a lot of my old videos are really rough, and my mood might have really come across in my commentary. Yeah, anyway, what other hobbies do you have outside of The Sims? At the moment, very little. Other games. I like watching TV. But yeah, I'm not exactly you know, exercise focused in any way. I should do more exercise, and I hope to in the future, but it's always been not a big deal for me. I'm very computer focused, and have been since, I don't know, since the first reasonably decent kind of computers came out. You know, the first ones that you could afford to buy. I mean, we had a ZX Spectrum. That was, I think, the first computer we had, and then I got an Amiga. You won't know what these are unless you Google them, or unless you're around at the time. And I loved my Amiga. And then finally I became a PC fan. You know, they had to pry me away from my Amigas, because Amiga fans were very, how would you say, we loved our Amigas and we didn't like PCs. But now I'm a PC fanatic, and I've been a PC fanatic since the 90s, you know. So yeah, my hobbies are just computers in general, and I wish I had more hobbies, but I don't. Thanks for your questions, Brie. Simlish Television asks, which video was the most difficult for you to film? So the most difficult one it would be the Sunset Horizons build, because I didn't move the camera, or I tried to move the camera very little during the filming, to try and minimize the amount of effect it had on my viewers that have motion sickness. And it was tricky, yeah. And I started another build like that, and I haven't finished it, basically because I found it really tricky to focus on it. And I'm now just generally trying to move the camera around less while I build, but not to the same extreme that I did in that video. So yeah, that was the toughest one. And I find editing in general can be very tough. When I first made speed builds, I thought that you had to show the entire build. Now I realize you don't need to. You can just show the most interesting parts. So that's a tip for smaller YouTubers. You don't have to speed it up so much to fit in all your masses of hours of building. You can instead cut out a lot of that building and have it at a much slower pace. So yeah, editing is your key, and it's tricky, and it takes a lot of time to get into, and editing can be very time consuming, but a well edited video is much more interesting to watch. And yeah, I look back at my old speed builds and I cringe. and I would love to delete them, but I leave them there as like a kind of historical curiosity. Anyway, thanks so much for your question. Let's move on. So, fantastic, Cassie, you asked so many questions, but so hopefully I've already answered all of them. But yeah, when did you start planning a YouTube channel? I planned it basically as soon as I left the job that I was in, and I just wanted to keep myself busy, but I've already answered that. What are your upcoming ambitions and goals? I would like to get a new job, but it's really important to me that I work for a game that I really enjoy. Where do you find inspiration to your LPs and in general? I don't have any inspiration for my LPs. My inspiration is to just play the game and enjoy it, and apparently that keeps, I don't know, about 80 regular views per episode, a little bit more now, which is great, but that's fine for me. I'm happy with that. You know, I know some YouTubers have thousands of views on their Let's Play episodes, but I don't really care about that. I'm happy to say that it doesn't affect me, and I'm happy with my crowd of regulars, and I have a lot of people that ask me stuff and talk to me in the comments, and I love responding to the comments. So in a way, perhaps if I grow too big, I won't be able to be like that. You know, I won't be able to be as responsive and communicative with subscribers. Favorite YouTubers? I've already covered that one. What audience do you have? Like, what countries are watching you? At least Norway. You can see this under Creator Studio if you don't know. Yeah, well, I do know. I mean, I look at the analytics a lot, Cassie. Thanks for your tip. But yeah, so the biggest audience absolutely is the US. That's the largest audience by far. Then it's the UK. For a while, France was up there in the top 3. And I think that's mostly because of a lot of ex-colleagues from both Blizzard and also Wargaming, which is where I worked after Blizzard. They're the makers of World of Tanks. So I think it was like friends that I'd made and colleagues, people that were just curious to see how I was, especially because last year I was very quiet. I didn't interact as much with my local friends. But I've come out of that now. I'm happier, and you know, my life is moving on again. So yeah, there's also now Canada and South Africa and Australia, New Zealand a bit, Ireland, Netherlands, Sweden. Yeah, all different countries, and yeah, Norway as well. Any fun facts about yourself you want to share? I'm adopted. I was adopted as a baby. I was like about 2 weeks old when I was adopted. My birth mother was 16 when she gave birth to me, so quite young, and it can be quite normal now for young mothers, but back then when I was born, and in New Zealand especially, it was kind of frowned upon for someone that young to have a baby, and people were encouraged to adopt them out. So yeah, I'm adopted, and when I was, I think 20, I think I was 20, I found my birth mother. There's like a process you can go through in New Zealand to find your birth mother, unless she really doesn't want to be contacted. And she is now a really good friend. I mean, that was a long time ago, and we talk to each other pretty regularly. And yeah, I've met a lot of my birth family. I've been very lucky. My birth father doesn't want to know me at all, which is really sad. I have met some of his family though, and I'm still in contact with one of my birth cousins on his side, but otherwise I know a lot of my birth family on my birth mother's side. And yeah, there you go, fun facts about me. I'm adopted, and yeah, I think adoption is a fine process. It doesn't work for everyone, but it worked out really well for me and my family. So what programs do you use, and where do you find your clips, music, etc.? Just check the description of each video, but I pretty much solely use Kevin MacLeod's stuff, which is, I know, some of the most basic music out there, but I find it works for me, and I know I could try out the music, but I don't really feel a stronger urge to. What programs do you use? I use OBS Studio to capture gameplay and webcam, and I edit in Adobe Premiere. Thank you so much for your questions, Cassie. Okay, we're getting near to the end of the questions, believe it or not. I know, a very long video, I'm sorry. What's your favourite pack? And this is for the Q&A. Okay, well I've already answered my favourite pack, but thank you so much for your question, Shanita. Ignore the name she has there. Her name is Senna, and she asks, will you marry me? Sure, let's do it. But you're already married. But yeah, why not? No, there's no reason why we can't get married. But yeah, I mean, I would also love to meet someone and get married with, you know, I'd like to marry someone that I love. But yeah, we can marry, sure. But of course I love you, Senna. Anyway. Right. Question from Patrick. You can't see his name here, but this was a private message he sent me on Twitter. Because I actually nudged him and said, hey, have you got any questions, Patrick? Patrick watches lots of my Let's Plays. Thank you so much, Patrick. How did you come up with the name Frimlin? So it came to me in a game, an online role-playing game that was out before World of Warcraft called The Realm. I think it was made by Sierra Online, and it was in the 90s as well. And I made a wizard, and I was thinking of names that were kind of Tolkien-esque. You know, before the movie The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, Tolkien was just in books, and I was a big Tolkien fan, and so I thought about the names of the dwarves from The Hobbit, and I was thinking along that line when I came up with Frimlin, basically. So yeah, kind of Tolkien-esque wizard. And Frimlin, the original Frimlin, was a wizard, but he was a human, but he was always supposed to have some kind of elven aspects as well, like his grandparent was an elf or something like that. Now you know. When did you first start playing The Sims? Well, with The Sims 1, and way more in Sims 3 and Sims 4. Thanks so much for your question. And finally, I've saved the best for last. My friend Belguru, or otherwise known as Belle. Belle is a very supportive friend. I don't know, we were just talking about this the other day, how we got to be such good friends, but we're of a similar age. We both live in Europe, and we both have smaller channels, and we just started talking about this, that, and the other, and now she is so supportive to me. We talk every day. And yeah, she also helped me last year. It was good to have someone to talk to so much. Thank you so much for being around, Belle. Anyway, Belle asks, what type of Sims 4 video would make you totally out of your comfort zone, and would you ever do something like that on your channel? I suppose, well, I've been thinking about this recently because I kind of came across something in Gamer Granny Tana does an Asylum challenge, and I think also Tiger Shera. She also does an Asylum challenge, if I'm not mistaken. But I've seen this Asylum challenge where you're only controlling one sim and you can't control the other sims. And if you know from my Let's Plays, I'm a bit of a control freak, and I like pausing a lot. I don't like my sims going off and doing whatever. But at the same time, I like them having autonomy. I don't like them being automatons. I don't like them being robots, basically. So the Asylum challenge or something like that would definitely push me out of my comfort zone, absolutely. And yeah, in terms of building, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what would put me out of my comfort zone in terms of building. I suppose I'm not a big fan of doing big builds, these mega builds. I mean, you can put so much time into them. It would be out of my comfort zone to do big builds, especially often. But every now and then, yeah, I wouldn't mind doing one every now and then. And I have done one recently with a hotel in the jungle. And we'll do one again, I'm sure. But yeah, definitely out of my comfort zone to do big builds. And yeah, not control sims. Anyway, thank you so much for your question, Belle, and for all your support. And that's the end! Whoa, so sorry that it's such a long video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got to find a little bit more about me. I don't usually tell people about me. I like keeping it focused just on the Sims 4 content. But thank you so much for helping me get to 600 subscribers and beyond. And yeah, I'm not very focused on the numbers, but I love having a larger group of, a larger audience. I just think it's cool to have so many people interested in what I'm doing, and I like interacting with you very much. So thanks so much for watching the Q&A. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope that you'll come back for another Sims 4 focused video, either a speed build, a let's build, or a let's play. Take care, and goodbye.